Hi, I'm Ed Roche. I'm a realist artist and I'm here in Newfoundland.
Mr. Roche, how do you research a painting?
That would depend on what the subject matter is of the painting. Obviously, if you're dealing with people, then you would be studying people, meeting with them, and photographing situations that people would be in, depending on mood and so on. If you're going to do nature, you have to get out in all kinds of weather and run along the coast, visit all the communities, particularly the Bonavista Vista area, which has the most magnificent seas, rough seas, that you can get in North America, as well as nature scenes. Newfoundland is a very impressive province in relation to nature and scenery and so on. The cliffs are unique in North America around Newfoundland coast because it's so rugged. So there are a million chances to every time you go out to find good material if you want to do paintings and capture the mood of Newfoundland and basically capture the outdoors. I was born in St. John's a long time ago. It was so long ago they hadn't even invented dirt then, so I'm older than dirt.
You studied biology first.
At the university I did biology, and I think that gave me a much greater appreciation of nature. As for art, the ability to draw and had an interest in painting goes back to when I was knee-high. I was apparently sketching when I was 3 or 4 years old. And a lot of my students, when I talk to them, say that when they were that age, they also would pick up a pencil and start drawing. So it's a sort of a built-in facet of personality, I think, the whole idea of having art, being an artist. It's a natural born talent that's there. How you use it is up to your own interests.
This painting is inspired from you?
When I was at the university, the two groups that seemed to get together for events were the science faculty and the engineering faculty. So some of my friends who are engineers went on to have their own companies and so on. So this was the one I did, and it's called Carl's Construction. And it's a sort of a take on what Carl must have been like when he was 2 or 3 years old and out playing. He had his own little construction company.
What were you playing as a child?
What was I playing? I grew up in a place called Middle Cove. So you literally lived with nature. So I spent a lot of time around the brooks and down on the beaches and so on. We were always busy. It wasn't, something that you were sort of painting or drawing because you were indoors doing that much of anything. You were always busy living out in the country. I always pitied kids who grew up in the city. I wonder what the heck they did to pass their time in the summer when we had the ponds to go swimming in, the brooks to go trouting, fishing in, and now and then we'd be allowed to go out in the boats, and they went out to pull traps, fishing traps. So it was a great way to grow up.
Studying biology, you did a lot of drawing.
Well, I always did some drawing, but it wasn't. I actually started painting when I worked with primary recreation in Newfoundland, and when I was traveling around, you end up a lot of nights in hotels with nothing to do. So I started to bring along watercolors and some materials just to kill the time, and that sort of got me interested. And then I went to a Chris Pratt show And the incredible work there, and this is while I was at university, by the way, studying biology, and I decided then and there that I had to give it a try. I started painting full-time in 1978, and I decided that if I could survive for 2 years, if not, I would go back to science or biology or whatever, wherever work took me. But the rest is history. I'm still painting.
Do you remember your very first finished painting?
Yes, but that was before I started painting full time. I was in Middle Cove, and a major winter storm came in, and so I was isolated there for 2 or 3 days. And being one of those people who's got to be doing something all the time, my little sister had gotten some crayons and watercolors and so on for Christmas. So I sat down looking out through the window toward Middle Cove Beach, and I did a painting of the kids out playing in snowbanks. And that is still with somebody in the family. I don't know who's got it right now. I will show you this one. This is Middle Cove, where I grew up. This is the part of the beach that I spent a lot of time on.
So you grew up here?
I grew up here. Well, not exactly there, but up the road a bit. This is the Annaburn Drive. This is the Middle Cove, and sort of this scene, you're standing on the beach, obviously in the springtime with the icicles and so on down. But Middle Cove is also famous for the fact that we get incredibly rough seas. So you get major. That cliff is about 150 feet high, and you get waves coming in and blowing right over that cliff. Like you certainly, on a stormy day, you stay off the beach well up from it.
Let's talk a little bit about your paints.
Oh, the paint is, I use acrylics. I don't use oils because, well, I did some oils, but because oils take so long to dry, I started experimenting with acrylics, and I found that suited me fine. So this is what one of my students, who is a great woodworker, built this for me so that I can grab any color I want while I'm working. And let me show you the palette. And as people often say, how did you get a picture like that out of this mess? Now you have a palette, you see? And you're forever mixing and matching and so on, and every now and then you'll take a paper towel and you'll wipe off the whole center core so you can mix another color for whatever. But in the meantime, it usually looks like an awful mess.
You seem to favor blues, greens.
I favor bright colors, cheerful colors. And you will even, if you're looking at, for example, this one over here, let's take this down. Now, this is, see, at a glance, most of the colors in this are fairly conservative, but they're calm. And it's a fall scene, so you get this great splash of color, and it also, if you look closely, you'll see that all of the woodwork and so on will have some pleasant colors some of the reds creeping in and mauves and what have you. And the whole idea is for people to find something that's a pleasure to look at rather than add to any sort of depression on a stormy day in Newfoundland. This is more, believe it or not, it's a sort of a little bit of a political statement. Because in 1992, we had the moratorium. Thanks to the great management by federal fisheries, the cod fishery was almost totally destroyed, and they had to close down completely, literally, because there was practically no cod left. And all these communities around Newfoundland that were thriving on the fishery before that, the people thought it was going to be 3 or 4 years and they'd be back at fishing again. Well, that was, 93, so figure out it's been like over 30 years. And so a lot of these communities, because people went away to Alberta, went away to Ontario for work, never came back because the fishery didn't start up again. And the communities were abandoned. And so this is 3 old timers on a wharf, considering the past. The fellows had pulled up their boats and waited for the moratorium to end so they could go back fishing. And it didn't happen.
Father, was he a fisherman?
He was a sort of jack of all trades, like so many Newfoundlanders. He also had a truck, and so he did trucking, but he did do fishing, and he was also a prominent carpenter. So I will show you the painting, such as it is right now. But this is, it has to do with the death of the fishery in many communities, because this would have been a fishing stage. But when I got there, it's ready to fall down, so the mold is growing over it. That's basically, it's, the whole community going back to nature. I'm sure it's in behind here. Okay. So this is how this is starting out, as you can see. This is the study, right? But there's going to be changes made. But I'll go back to the mold and everything after. So by the time it's finished, it's going to be very colorful. But it's a statement about the fact that communities are dying here because the fisheries are changing. They're gone more to bigger boats and offshore and so on. So the small communities are resettling, moving on. And this is what you'd find in the remnants in a small community that used to be. So of downtown is worth having, but this one here is it's finished. It was a pub we used to go to years ago. It doesn't exist now, the building does, but the fishing admiral is long gone. I don't know what's in it now. It's on Water Street. This is the one. Now these are only, in this paint, these are just background colors. So only some of the waves starting to come in and so on. The boat is just, base colors. No detail in it yet per se. And it's just showing how you blend different colors as the spray comes up and it's shaded, depending where the source of light is.
What do you think about working with a palette knife?
The only palette knife work I do is cleaning my palette. It's a whole lot. There's 100 forms of art, and there are some people, Cliff George and so on, who do a lot of palette knife work and so on. But it's not something, because of the amount of detail I put in, it wouldn't really work well for me, for my style. But I mean, for people who use the style, they do incredible work with it.
This one, how much more work do you have to do on it?
Oh, there's a lot of work in there. These are just background colors. This obviously is going to be grassy field and trees, but there's no detail on trees. There's no detail in the background. There's big waves out there. There's all there's a bit of finished work here. It's starting to, but the rocks are just a bunch of colors right now. They're going to be very rugged when they're finished. So you have like a bunch of rocks here like this, and another group here. And then cliffs, but it's when it's done, it won't. Well, this is basically what you'll get, but the amount of detail will be incredible compared to what you're seeing now.
Are these your friends here?
These are some acquaintances from out around Trinity. Unfortunately, two of them are now passed away, because this was a study I did about 20 years ago. And like a lot of paintings, sometimes you move on to other stuff and it might take you 10 or 15 years to get back to it. So it was only recently I went back to this, and as you can see, they're sitting around having a drink and having a game of crib. These over here, now the one of the codfish, you see, that was a study I did years ago. My father was still alive, and they had come back in from fishing in the morning, and he put a couple of fish in a boiler and brought it home for lunch. And so I photographed it when I was sitting on our doorstep, and I did that painting as a reminder of back then and so on. The one up there on the wall is a painting I did of rough seas and the boat, and it's called The Morning After. So many people went out and got caught in storms and were lost at sea in Newfoundland over the years, and that this is sort of, well, this reflects back on some boat that couldn't make it ashore and people were lost.
And here, this one.
Okay, that one there, that is Neddy's Harbour up on the west coast up there, Grossmorn. It's just a very calm morning, but with the light on the cliffs and so on, it's just incredible. You can imagine how peaceful it is if you're there. And this one here, of course, you probably saw a little while ago. This is Champneys West, down by Port Rexton. So it's just, the attraction there is it's got a lot of bright, cheerful colors. Now the next two, as you move down, this one here and this one here are two pictures from the main market in Florence, in Tuscany. Again, great splashes of color. Now these belts here, there was a whole wall, I mean literally 8 feet high and 20 feet long of belts. So I just fastened on one small section. This was out on a hilltop in Tuscany where the local craftspeople do their products, and there's a place out there, they made these shoes for well-to-do golfers. And these were to display outside this little craft shop, and it was just too good to pass up. So. That one there is a community in Placentia Bay down on the close to Pettyford area.
The book. So when did you do this book?
This is about a year and a half ago. And Red Sheeran, who is with CBC, and he's from here locally, had an idea for a book, and so we got together on it, and we decided that in the book we would look at all aspects of Newfoundland and whatnot, and use pictures of paintings from them. This is Trinity East. That's our house out there. And this is in Elliston, you were there. And that's the shores down there, but where if I had moved ahead another few feet, the sculptor is right here. And this is right the beach right by his house. But this was a one I did for the humorous one for some kids for Halloween. This is again a statement about resettlement in Newfoundland. And this is an old man who's gone back to a community somewhere in Placentia Bay to visit the old homestead, which is now all overgrown and so on. And of course, the thing about going back for these people, they can go back and look at it and reminisce, but they can never have that moment again, because when the people left here, some went to Western Canada, they went all over the world. So they're never going to get back together again. So the most they can hope for is go and visit and reminisce about what was. There's, nature, there's no end to, what you can, as a painter in Newfoundland, if you appreciate nature and the environment, then you will never be stuck for subject matter. And this is Port Rexton. That's Fox Island out there.
You go there in winter as well?
Well, Trinity East is really part of Port Rexton. This was one I did for Santa Claus coming years ago in a community, and now abandoned down on the Burin Peninsula. But anyway, so it took in the 4 seasons, as you can see, and that's basically they're just looking for a theme. That's a lady who lived, she's passed away since, but she lived just down the road from our house in Trinity East. And she's teaching her granddaughter knitting.
What about your mother?
My mother was, she was a stay-at-home mother, as they all were back then. And what can I say? You can only speak in superlatives about your mother. And you know, like everybody's mother, she was the greatest in the world. So, and she was the one who came out of a time when things were pretty poor in Newfoundland, and education wasn't a great priority. But she insisted that, you know, you had to aspire for something more than a job down at the mill type thing. Now let's go get a few more. This one was, as I said, was just sort of a long way from being finished yet. See, that's a excuse me. That's in painting in progress, so it's you gradually build up from a background and increase the detail as you move forward until you get it to a point that you're happy with. But this is what you do. You go out when there's a stormy day, and no matter what the weather, and take your camera along and try to catch the right wave.
So you take pictures before you start painting?
But you don't stay outdoors and paint in Newfoundland. You'd have a very short life expectancy. Now these are a couple from a more European show. This, you know, since the family originally came out from Ireland, when I was there, I came across one of the old cottages that were abandoned during the famine. And this is the remnants of it up near Galway in Ireland. Okay. And this is three guys who have the same habits as Newfoundlanders, sitting around having a yarn, solving the world's problems. Okay. So we'll just lay this over here for now. This one here, when I was in, where was I, in Belgium, and Van Eyck, there was a display there, and they had recreated his studio as it was way back when. And I took some photographs, I couldn't resist. So this is Van Eyck's studio. Now, what have we got here? Let's see. Oh, these are just... This is a recreated picture of Bella Vista near the courthouse as it looked way back when in about 1900. It's changed completely now. There's a fish plant house out there now. What have you? Early morning on the coast. Okay. This is a picture of the Muir Peninsula too. It's near Lethbridge in the fall.
I noticed that you like this size. Rectangular,
How do you mean?
like long rectangular canvas.
Well, it depends on what you're doing, because sometimes, you know, it's to get the full effect. You know, you can isolate a little part, or you can do the panorama, so you get an effect that sort of like this one here too. This is up northern Labrador, early morning. Now this one here is Kathy. You met her on the way in. We were at the Van Gogh Museum. We were in Europe last time, and she was admiring some of the artwork, and I thought this is too good to pass up. This is St. John's Harbour, around 1900.
How did you find this photo? Where did you find this photo?
Well, to get the landscape, I photographed landscape. Then I went to the archives to dig up old photographs that were taken back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Some were usually after 1890, when photography sort of got on the go here in Newfoundland. This is down in Champneys West on a winter morning, and with some ice on the harbour, and this is a hillside. Now that tree is what you call a tuckamore. The one that's sort of beaten back by the wind and so on along the edge of the coast up. This is in the northern peninsula area of Newfoundland. So you're looking out at the Gulf of St. Lawrence, and so there's so much beauty in all things in nature. Now this one is a little bit different, because Newfoundland's heritage and what sustained people over the years many times was this music, and their singing and what have you, and the fishery. So I combined both of them, and I did a painting of a Newfoundland choir. And this is a Newfoundland choir celebrating our fishery and our music. Now, let me see here. I'll bring this out so that I can show you. Well, can you get it there? Yep. This is a picture, again, a lot of it, the communities that they were, historic renditions of what it was like. And this is Bonaventure, New Bonaventure, as it would have been probably in the 1940s. This one is morning, this is present day, in Outer Cove. The parish is Outer Cove, Logie Outer Cove, Middle Cove. And this is Outer Cove on a summer morning. That was last year.
How would you say your style, your technique evolved over the years?
I don't know. It's not something I give any thought to do. Your interest changes over the years. When you start out, you're probably more inclined to your present environment, and as time goes by, you extend into messaging a little bit. So this is the same community as it was back about 1900 when the first people came over. That's the Outer Cove. Way back then when. As you can tell by the car.
How would you like to be remembered as an artist?
Let's go outside. I don't give that much consideration, and that's a little bit a degree of vanity on the part of some people who are very interested in how they're being remembered. The big thing is whether they enjoy the art, and if they do, then that's as much as you can hope for. You know?
How do you take care of yourself?
How do I?
How do you take care of yourself as an artist?
I don't do a very good job of taking care of myself. For example, 2 years ago, I went out one morning to do photography, autumn photography, and ended up with a moose in the front seat of my vehicle. It totally demolished the vehicle and left me rather damaged. Like for example, I still don't have grip in this hand, and the broken bones have healed, but the nerves haven't. And then when they're picking the glass out of this hand, they chopped so the nerves are all in a bundle there now, so you're not quite sure when you pick something up. So oftentimes in your painting, you take a brush and it just flips out of your hand because you think you've got a grip and you don't. That's, for taking care of yourself, it would have been sensible in the fall not to be out driving early in the morning when it's rutting season for moose and they're all on the move. In this particular case, the moose came straight across the front of the van, and when you're doing 100 kilometers and you hit a moose that's about the size of a small car, there's going to be damage.
And you couldn't paint for a long time?
Hmm?
You couldn't paint for how many months?
Oh no, I was really lucky because most of the damage I think might have come from the exploding airbags, or probably some part of the moose impacted me, because I ended up with a bad concussion. And broken bones, broken nose, and if you see a moose running around with strange looking teeth, they're mine. It's one of those things where no serious damage was done. I had this arm in a cast for a while, but I was back painting within 10 days.
Do you have a project in the back of your mind?
What?
A project that you'd like to do but didn't have the chance to do?
Not really, because my interest, there is so much. For example, you see here, like there's pictures of people. Say like a youngster playing on the beach, and which is like looking at your own life or the life of people around you, and the people relaxing over there, they're playing cribbage and so on, and just showing the world as it is, and too many people don't see what's in nature. A good example of that is like people who are in some of my classes. They think rocks are gray, And you explain to them, no, there's, the geology of rocks is, there's very many colors and so on. So then they'll drive out Trans-Canada this summer and they come back and say, my God, I can't believe we're going through a rock cut out there and I was looking at the rocks and there's like 50 colors. I had one man was in there and he's wanted to do some painting, so I started. And of course, shading is very important in how visible a thing appears to the eye. The darker shades and lighter shades make it three-dimensional. And this fellow he said in his whole lifetime, he had never seen a shadow. He didn't recognize the fact that a house is darker on this side when the sun is coming from the other side, and so on. So he had to learn that to learn how to produce a painting that had depth.
Many people consider you one of the greatest contemporary painters. What do you think?
Do anybody? I don't know, because it is really not, it's something that concerns me. I'm more interested in the painting I'm doing this week and the one that I'm, it's like a kid with a new toy every week, and not just by week. Like when I paint, I'm always painting. I have 4 or 5 paintings going at the same time. So if there's a lot of detail in one, you do so much detail, and then you go off to another one where you're putting in background colors or whatever. So you keep a bit of variety there so you don't get bored with it or whatever. But, my concern about what people think of me or my artwork, it's not a question for me. I appreciate the fact that they like the artwork, but as for running around with a swelled ego, I haven't got time.
Do you have a sketchbook?
No.
How come?
Because I have a camera. Example, that picture up on the wall of the old boat. Now, I have sketched many boats and many paintings, so I didn't need a picture of a boat. I know what boats look like, so when I was doing that, then I get the ocean in place, and then I just paint in a boat. And I painted in the way I wanted to look in the morning after. In the same way, I know how to do a sky, I do oceans and whatnot. And for the roughness of the water where it's hitting the land there, I probably have thousands of studies that I can go to and look at and find something that works for my mind's eye view of how stormy it is. You need that because the ocean is the ocean, rocks are rocks, and you can't paint something because you think a rock should look like that. Yeah. I mean, I can paint lots of rocks, I don't know, but in reality, it's still got to look like a rock.
You mentioned Christopher Pratt earlier. What was your relationship with the artist? Did you talk to him a lot?
Well, I knew Chris from years ago when I was in recreation because I worked that part of the province and he was in Salmoneer. So I got to meet the Pratts. And then over the years, different events and so on, and we'd get a chance to get together and have a chat. And he was just an incredible artist, and he had the driest, funniest sense of humor. I mean, if Chris got up to give a talk, you literally have tears in your eyes, from laughter with him. But he always came across as being very stern, and until he started talking, then you realized what a brilliant wit he was.
You paint on canvas. Have you painted on other surfaces?
I've painted on masonite early on, some bigger paintings. That would be in 30, 40 years ago. When I first started, I started in watercolors because, as I told you earlier, when I was on the road to have something to do in the evenings, I used watercolors, and so you used watercolor paper and whatnot. So and watercolors are a difficult medium. You know, you can do some brilliant colors, but they fade very quickly as they, like about 20% loss of color just into the paper alone. The oils, or you could get the colors you wanted, but because it took forever for especially light colors to dry, you often found out that the painting, what you did in the painting yesterday, as you move to another part, ends up on your elbow today. So I decided to try acrylics, and acrylics they don't lose their color. They last forever, literally, and they dry very quickly because they're water-based.
What are your plans for the summer?
Well, my plans, I shall be painting. But no, I will be going to be I've been doing some of the coast from up around Twillingate and Fogo and those areas, and as far west as Springdale. And I would have gone further west, except there's no accommodations available this year. I should have booked 6 months ago, but it's kind of crazy this year. So the accommodations, the furthest I could get west was out near Springdale. So I'm going to do that part of the coast.
Hope to meet you again to see that work. Hope to see you again to see that work from Twillingate and Springdale.
Yeah, well, you know, I've done hundreds of paintings, so I've done paintings all along the coast, but some of it is really interesting, and time changes things. And so if you're going out to study an area, you have to go in the winter, you have to go on a sunny day in the winter, you'll have to wait for a stormy day in the winter. If you're going out on the coast, like up around the Bonavista Vista where it gets very rough, you have to go on a calm day, a sunny day, a foggy day, a stormy day, and that's the only way you get to know the coast, you know. In spite of the moose accident, I have not lost my taste for moose. I would recommend, based on my own background, that if you're going to get serious about being an artist, first you go out and you study something that will give you a job so you won't starve to death. And secondly, if you want to enhance your ability as an artist, study biology, study science.